One of my favorite things in the world to do is watch Friends. I know it's been off for years and years. It's not even around, but I still find myself binge watching old episodes. And I was thinking about this today and thinking, it's the predictability of the friends in the circle, right? You have Chandler with his quirkiness, Monica with her type A of just everything has to be so neat and tidy and organized. It's Phoebe's ability to make you laugh at her silly songs. Ross always comes in with those smart comments, and Joey and him and his food, like it is just so hilarious. And of course, Rachel, she just brings everybody together, and it's just such this beautiful, cohesive team of people. And it's why I wanted to come on and share with you today that I have an opportunity for you to find your friends in the content creation space. So if you are thinking about creating your first or your next digital course, I don't want you to miss this opportunity because Amy Porterfield just opened the doors for registration for her Course Confident Bootcamp. And I'm actually offering a special bonus for anyone that registers for the Course Confident Bootcamp through my special link. So I want you to go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register. That's crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And what you're going to find when you get there is I have this special bonus private podcast series. It's called Money Mindset for Creators. So I want you to go register for Amy's bootcamp, download the podcast, and immediately start listening to it, because what this training is set up to do is to help you get your mind right about monetizing your content, making money so that you can fuel your content creation dreams. So go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp to register for Course Confident. And I cannot wait for you to find your friends and find the people that will be there for you. Do you see what I did there? Yeah, nice little friends segue connection. Go to crystalprofit.com/Amy-bootcamp. And I cannot wait to see you inside. Okay, let's get into today's episode. Today's podcast guest was so much fun to talk to, and I can't wait to share with you her story about her journey because it's so awesome. And I love doing these bonus episodes where we feature these entrepreneurs who are they're killing it in their own journey. But more than that, they're listening to that inner voice inside of them that tells them there's something out there that is just pushing me to fulfill, like whether it's a hole in their heart or just something that drives them to motivate other people or to just search for something bigger and better because they know that it's out there. So that is exactly what today's interview is, and I cannot wait to share it with you. So let's just get started. Welcome to the Profit Podcast, where we teach entrepreneurs how to start, launch, and market their podcast. I'm your host, Crystal Profit, and I'm so excited that you're here. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Because if you've been thinking about creating a podcast for a while, well, I'm so glad you found this show. Think of this as the shortcut/time-saving version of searching Google and YouTube for hours and hours trying to figure out the world of podcasting. Trust me, as a busy mama of 3, I get it. You don't have a lot of time to be spent or wasted, I should say, searching the web, trying to find all the right ideas and all the amazing things that are out there, and you just end up overwhelmed. Trust me, I've been there, done that, took home the souvenir. But this podcast is going to help you in practical ways because twice a week we'll be delivering episodes that are going to give you steps to help you create a podcast your audience can't wait to listen to. So let's get right to it, shall we? Holy moly. This podcasting stuff is so overwhelming. I don't even understand. Like, you have to pick out equipment, and then you have to decide on a name, and then you have to say, am I going to have guests? Am I not going to have guests? Like, what am I, like, just all the questions, right? I totally get it. This is exactly where I started when I first started podcasting. I had all of the exact same questions, and I, to be perfectly honest, was overwhelmed. Totally overwhelmed with what I was doing. So I don't want you to feel that way. I've actually created a page specifically dedicated for people that want to start, launch, and market their podcast. It's at crystalprofit.com/start here. And there you're going to find our 3-step framework for you to start, launch, and market your podcast. Everything is in one place, and you can find all of the details for how you can create your podcast this year. So ditch the overwhelm and let's get after it. Let's do this thing together. Again, that's crystalprofit.com/start here. And be sure to grab all of the amazing freebies while you're there, including the quick and dirty video. You'll see what I'm talking about when you get there. So my guest today is Loralee Humpherys, and she teaches and motivates new and struggling coaches, healers, health and wellness advocates how to apply the keys of mindset, meditation, and marketing so that they can build and grow a successful online business. She helps people go from feeling disconnected and completely at odds with themselves to becoming more present and grounded within their own bodies, because then and only then can they attract the success and prosperity that they so richly deserve and fulfill their destinies of helping other people in the world. How beautiful is that? I just love that this is her. This is what she does, because it's so cool to read this about her. Loralee passionately shares how drawing upon the important relationship with your success, mindset, and your body can influence everything in your life. She teaches the value and benefits of using a combination of healthy eating, meditation, and mindset success principles to do this. So I'm just going to dive right into this amazing interview I had with Loralee Humpherys. All right, Ricky podcast listeners, I'm so excited to introduce you today to Loralee Humpherys. So how are you today, Loralee? Thank you for coming on the show.
Wonderful. Thanks for having me.
So this is so fun. I was just talking, we were chatting before we hopped on, and Loralee is coming to us from Las Vegas. So I was telling her that's a place I've never been. I'm really excited. I'm going to try to talk my husband into, we got to go visit sometime. But Loralee, just tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about your journey and how you got started and how you are where you are today.
Okay, well, I started my personal growth journey in college. I think that's a time when a lot of people are figuring out what they're doing, who they are, what they want to be in their life. And for me, it took me forever to get through college because I didn't know what I wanted to major in, what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I had experiences during that time that really challenged everything that I had constructed my life to be. Who I was, what life was about, how you interact with people. I grew up in a very structured religious environment. And so everything from that belief system, that religious culture that formed my life, all of that came into question. And long story short, 10 years later, then there was a huge upheaval, reconstruction, deconstruction, challenging, questioning everything in my life. And there was a lot of struggle during those times, quite frankly, because there was so much unraveling and then figuring out, so if this thing isn't true, then what is true? What feels right to me? Who am I? What do I do in my life? And that carried into the first few years after I graduated from college. And I really wasn't in a place to where I could go out and get a job. I just wasn't put together inside. I didn't have the confidence. I just didn't have the persona, the stance, of being able to go out and say, okay, I can get this job, and for somebody to hire me. And so what I ended up doing was taking over a house cleaning service for a friend. And I just jumped right into learning to work for myself and learning how to manifest money. And that was an up and down struggle for a bit. And I did learn a lot of things from that. And it was just tied right in with the challenge of everything that I've been dealing with previously. And now I had to couple that with learning how to support myself financially and work and everything. So those years were very rough. And I learned a lot. I cried a lot. I figured things out. And then part of in those years of learning and asking everything, then I would just read books. I just would go to the bookstore at the university, and then in a nearby town whenever I could get up there, because I didn't have a car at the time. So I was drawn to just metaphysical, spiritual bookstores. And so I would go for anything that sparked my interest. And I read all kinds of things. And that really helped just put the pieces back together and form a working psychology or belief system or paradigm that worked for me, that I could use to approach my life with. And so from that really formed the basis of the foundation of everything. And I was really drawn towards was energy healing work, meditation, spiritual development, inner work, inner healing work, because I was in shatters by that point. And then a few years later, then I was blessed to meet a woman who was a natural healer, a psychic. She had done energy work. She worked with me for a long time, for several years, to really help put me back together, I call it, from the inside out, and taught me so much. She's one of the most, when I look at my life and the people who have had the most influence, then she's right up there at the top of how much influence and help she gave me. And so from that, I knew I wanted to go into something with alternative or holistic health. And I really wanted to understand how to do energy healing work, because that has made such a huge, profound difference for me in my life. And so she fortunately taught me a lot over the years that I worked with her. And then a few years after I got out of college, then I went back to school into massage and body work. And that really helped start moving me in the direction of where I am now, as well as helping me learn more functional ways of dealing with money and making an income. And then from that, I learned more about the mind-body connection and how our psychology, our emotional health affects our physical health, affects our income. I learned more aromatherapy, and then really starting to understand from my teacher about the importance of diet and caring for the body, because at the time I was like, I didn't know anything about how to care for the body health. And then a few years ago, then I went through holistic nutrition training, and that just kind of really brought everything together in full circle. So I've got a lot of stuff about how to just live a life in a healthy, functional way where you're happy, where it's centered on your heart of following what's true to you, of taking care of your body in a way that's in accordance to natural health principles. And then from there, you can go out and do your life. You can interact with people and contribute what you have to offer and generate an income, a cycle of prosperity between you and them. So it all comes back to you. How you feel about you. Are you happy with yourself and your life, and are you comfortable with your body? And then it just goes from there.
So. That's so awesome. Oh, I love your story. I love the different timelines that you have. And I love that you said, when you first started any kind of entrepreneurial journey, I guess it was probably with the cleaning service, like just trying to figure things out. You're like, it was okay. And then I was crying. And then I love that you said this, because I think a lot of people, when they're first starting any kind of journey and they see someone else on a similar path and someone's doing it better than them, then they think like, oh, everyone else has it all figured out. And, woe is me, like, why can't I do this? Like, and I'm totally speaking from a place of personal experience on this, where I think, it's this comparison thing. So can you tell me about a time when you first started in your journey, or actually let's talk about when you first started working with your coach, because as a coach yourself, I'm sure you meet with clients or you meet with people and then there might be some sort of resistance. So what kind of things did you face whenever you first started exploring this world that was brand new to you?
Okay. Well, I was introduced to the realm of inner healing work and energy healing work through the books.
Okay.
And at the time, with where I was living, with what my reality in life was, what I was reading about in books was so far different than what my current reality was. And it was such a jump, and I just ached inside. It's like, I wish there would be someone in my life that could teach me these things that I'm reading about, because I just knew. It's like nothing rattles my insides more than that topic. And I just knew intuitively that that type of work would be what would make me feel better, so that I could actually function and feel confident and even know who I was and how to deal with my life. And so when I met her, it literally took 7 years. I think one of the biggest struggles for me at that time was to really believe that it was possible, that somebody could come into my life. And what shifted that piece for me was, I'll never forget this moment. I was living in Utah at the time, and I had moved from one town to another because I was at a dead end. And I was like, I don't know what else to do other than go back to school and get a second bachelor's degree. And so I applied, I got accepted into the other school, and I moved. And literally, I had been in that new place 2 weeks. And I was standing in front of my closet, putting laundry away, thinking about a book that I was currently reading about this woman who lived in LA, a huge metropolitan area, dealing with her coaching clients and teaching them. And she was trained in shamanic Native American traditions and healing modalities, but just talking about how she was working with people in this city doing all this stuff. And something just landed in my body and just hit. And I was like, this is possible. It's truly possible that I could find somebody. And so from that, I just hung on to that inner sense, or that shift within myself. And then it was actually a year and a half, 2 years later before I even met her. And so that was a big thing. And then after she had been working with me for a few months, I finally got up the courage to ask her if she would teach me. And this was, for me, was another big, huge step for me, because at the time I was so timid and shy. I had no confidence, belief in myself, nothing. I was just decimated from the previous 10 years of what I had gone through. And the only thing that I wanted in my life at that time was to learn how to do healing work. It was the biggest, deepest desire. And so when I finally got up the courage to ask her if she would teach me, then it was just a very casual, nonchalant, well, of course.
Yeah.
And so that was a big thing for me, of just finally. And then over the course of the next, oh goodness, I worked with her for probably a period of 7 years of just learning what she taught, having her facilitate me, and then just a lot of conversations. And so I think what a couple of takeaways that I would offer from all that to your audience would be, first, whatever it is that speaks to your heart, to where it just pulls and draws you to where it's like, I know I need to do this, even though there's absolutely nothing in my life right now that reflects back to me that this is even possible. Still keep holding that trust, that knowingness, that thing in your heart of just following that, honoring that, and listening to it. Because the more you can give that energy or attention and feed it, eventually it will seed. It will show up in your life. I mean, for me, it took 7 years.
Right.
for me, from the time I first asked to find someone until I finally met her. And so just recognize that you don't know what the time frame is. It's not up to you. It's more like up to like spirit, higher self, God, whatever you want to call that. But just hold to what your heart's desires is. Then the second thing would be recognize that it's not an overnight thing. It's a journey. It becomes a way of life. It's how you define your whole lifestyle of how you do everything in your life is defined by that deeper purpose, that deeper thing that drives you. You know, for me, it's been all about healing. Well, started out with healing and the personal growth and development, and now it's expansion of, you know, what are you here to create and offer the world? It evolves over time. But if you go into it thinking like you're just going to do a one-hit quick fix, you won't have that perspective that time and experience gives you, as well as the personal development that happens. And so when you're working with any type of coach, any type of group, you have to give it time for it to seed, for the seeds to cultivate and sprout and bloom. It's not going to happen in 3 months.
Being a woman in business comes with its own unique set of challenges, but also so many opportunities. We get ahead by leaning in to what makes us different from business as usual. I'm Samantha Hartley, host of Profitable Joyful Consulting, inviting you to a special 6-episode series exploring the experience of being a woman in business. You want to hear from women consultants who've hit $1 million, who sell 6-figure engagements, or who've broken their own revenue ceilings? Yeah, those are my clients, and they'll be sharing too. Join me for 6 must-listen episodes that tackle key challenges for women consultants. Follow Profitable Joyful Consulting on your favorite podcast app.
Well, I love what you said about you had to work up the courage to ask her, because who knows if you, like, as soon as that thought would have popped into your head, you know, like, oh, someday I want to ask her, maybe that would have been the wrong time for her. Like maybe she didn't have the time to do it, or, you know, something was going on personally in her life, or, you know, whatever. So I love that you said that so much about time, because it's so important, because and only looking back most of the time can you see how important it is, where you piece things together and you're like, oh, that's how I am where I am today, because everything fell into place at just the right time.
Yeah, and it allows you to see the through lines of the themes that move your life, and that also ties you into this sense of I'm not alone, I'm being guided by a higher force. And then you can allow that the hand of that higher power to guide you, and rather than feeling like it's all up to you, you have to carry the whole universe and you're responsible, which is how it works.
It's too much. Trust me, if you're listening to this, it's too much to bear. You can't do it. Hand it over.
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you about something specific that you had on your website, and it was the Faces of Freedom. So can you tell us more a little bit about what that is?
Okay. So when I was developing that, then I woke up one morning and it had just this, I just operate this way. I had this huge download that came into my mind, and it was like just all of this information, and it was Faces of Freedom. I'm like, okay, this is what I go with. So what that represents is a community that I'm building of women and men, of people who are the faces, the individuals, of people committed to a sense of freedom in their life, however that shows up for you. You know, for me, so much of that freedom means the inner freedom of having done your work, of looking at what are the beliefs, the patterns, the prejudices, the biases that you've developed or that you've acquired over your lifetime that are not even yours. They originated from other people originally, but they hold you bound. You know, the fears, the things of, oh, I can't do this, or what are people going to think of me, or the excuses of I've got this and this and this and this I can't do, so, or that I have to attend to, so I can't follow my dream, or that the confidence, that the chains of no confidence that keep you from being able to follow your dream, to be able to connect in with who you really are. I mean, people want, we throw around the idea of freedom of, some concept of outside of us, that we have to go march and do rallies or whatever, political activism, for example, to create freedom. Or how many wars have been waged in the name of we want freedom from tyranny. And while there is a place for that, there is a moment when certain people do need to stand up and say no more. The crux of it all comes from within, of how you feel about yourself. How free are you really to express your true self, to go out and create and interact and do what you're here to do, rather than being chained to these fears and beliefs and everything that keep you small. So that's what freedom is for me. And then it couples with that, it reflects in how you care for your body. How free are you of disease, of medical bills, of bankruptcy because of those medical bills? And then that carries over into another conversation of your income. How free are you of the 9 to 5 or a paycheck? How free are you from having to jump through the hoops of another authority figure in your life who is the employer or the boss, because you have not developed your own inner authority to generate your own income with the confidence to know you can, as well as the skills and the gifts and the contributions that you can offer to people that will make a difference in their life. When you unravel that, there's a lot of, you can apply freedom to any of that. And so for me, Faces of Freedom and the community that I'm building are people who are committed to doing those things. Freedom within, with their own mind and emotional makeup, freedom with their health, freedom with their income and what they're contributing to the world. So
I feel like I just got you on a soapbox. I'm like, woo, Loralee, she's telling me.
like I'm going.
Like, she's on fire, y'all. I love this. Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think that those are things that people get tripped up on. And, and I've talked to several coaches, and everyone mentions, some form of, the mind, the body, and then the soul and the health, and money. And it's funny because the theme across them, if someone were to ask, well, why do you talk about the same things? I'm like, why are people struggling with these things? Like, these are the number one things that people struggle with. So if someone's listening right now and they're saying, yeah, my personal life is in a mess, my professional life, I have no purpose, I don't know what I'm doing, they're just on this track that they don't know where it's taking them, but it feels comfortable. They know that they're safe in this environment, but they also know that they want more. What kind of advice would you give to them?
I would say, when you're in that place, how badly do you want it?
Oh, that's good.
At what point does the pain override the discomfort of growth? Because if you know you want something different, but you're afraid to go through the learning curve that it takes, you won't change. And instead, there will come a day where you kind of cave in on yourself and you give up and you succumb to the story of all of the reasons why you can't, and then you're the walking dead and you're miserable. You've sold yourself a piece of yourself, a piece of your soul, for that rut, for that fear. And so if you know that you want to make a change, take the time to invest in yourself for as long as it takes, however it takes, to develop and cultivate a strong sense of who you are, what you're here to offer, what are your gifts and contributions, what are the struggles you've gone through. you won't find the gifts and your contributions without having gone through struggle, because the gifts are on the other side of the struggle. If you're afraid of the struggle, then stay in the rut where you're at and just allow that to be your life. And then just give up the argument and the story.
Right.
If you're really willing to go through that growth curve, to get uncomfortable, to feel the pain, to feel the anger, to feel the anguish, and work through that inner stuff to find your strong sense of self and confidence, you have to have that raw resource to make it through the actions that it requires to go do the acts of building a business. You don't have, if you don't have that inner fortitude already developed, then you'll quit at the first hard thing. So that's what I would tell them.
Well, that's great, because I'm sitting here. So I don't know if, I don't think we said this earlier, but Loralee and I, we're on a video call. I can see her and I'm just watching her face and I'm like, she is preaching to y'all right now for sure. And she is just serious about this. And I can feel it while you were sitting there talking about being uncomfortable. I know what you're talking about, and I can physically feel my body wince up a little bit, because I'm feeling that for y'all. So if that is you, because she is 100% right. In order to grow, you have to step out of that comfort zone, and it does not feel good. It does not, but what you see just on the other side of uncomfortable is that amazing thing that you're looking for. So, I want to switch gears again, because I was playing around on your website and looking at all your beautiful pictures. I love everything that you have, but I noticed you have so many of you being outdoors and hiking and doing some fun things. So can you tell us a little bit about that? And is that something that is a passion of yours, or something that, you're just like, okay, I want to go get some cool pictures outside, so I'm going to go do this? Tell us more about those.
Okay, well, I always love being outside. And in fact, I was just posting a lot of recently on my Facebook about my current favorite pastime is just wandering around out in nature and taking pictures of all the different desert plants and close up and landscapes and such. But it's just, I really enjoy being out there because it just grounds me. It's like this wave of calm that just comes through my body from head to toe. And it's centering and calming and grounding. And it's just like, whoosh. And it's just, I love that. And it also goes along with something that I also share or encourage people, is to really develop and find a way to connect with nature and the earth. That in our society, sadly, we have lost that in so many different ways. And I truly believe that disconnect from the earth is one of the foundational, fundamental causes of all of the disease, the unhappiness, the poverty, the strife, the division, everything. People used to have cultures, or there used to be cultures connected to the earth, and there were no war. People didn't know what it was. When they did archaeological excavations, there were no weapons of war in those cultures. And so it just speaks to us of how much we've lost. And so much of it is our connection to nature and the earth, and recognizing that everything that we have in our life comes from the raw resources of the earth. And, that goes towards just a big mindset shift of abundance, of health, of not feeling separate and abandoned. There's a deep sense of abandonment, I think, that so many people have when you dig deep down enough into your psyche and into your body. And that abandonment is because we've separated ourselves from the mother, which gives us life. And so when I go out into nature, then it's one way for me to start to re-establishing that. Another way is through our diet and the food choices. But that's, I've always just really loved being out in nature, and it's very nourishing.
Well, y'all have to go check out her website and look at her pictures and just check them out because it's beautiful. Like I said, I've never been to Las Vegas. Is that where you took those pictures?
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's so beautiful. And which is funny because I grew up where it's just lush hills and huge trees and stuff. But I'm just like that. There's a place in West Texas where you can go hiking and it's a lot more of like the desert climate.
Mhm.
But what I love is the sky, like the night sky, and then like just being able to see like for forever, just all the stars and everything. So, but that is what I was imagining when you were talking about getting connected with nature.
Mhm.
There's just nothing like a beautiful night sky that doesn't have lights. Like you get out of the city and you get away from it all. And that's just so cool. So I know exactly what you're talking about when you're talking about.
Yeah. Looking at a sky or a star-filled night sky is just, it's amazing.
Yes, it's just so beautiful. Okay, so I have a question about your coaching.
Okay.
So how has, you've mentioned this a little bit, but I want to go into a little bit more detail. How has your journey kind of transformed over the last few years from going to, you know, that shy person that is like, I think I want to ask her to teach me, to where you are today? Like, how has that transformed?
Oh my goodness. It's been such a journey. Oh, there's been so many breakthroughs, so much thing. How have I gone from there to who I am now? Is that kind of what you're asking? It is an underlying commitment to my personal growth, which is ultimately a very strong commitment to self-love. And if, you know, the more I have gone on this journey, then the stronger that has gotten for me, as well as a love for my life, a love for my body, for being comfortable in my body. One thing that I really recognized soon after I moved here to Las Vegas, and I went through a phase of a lot of inner healing work. So it goes in ebbs and flows. And so I just ride the wave. But what came out of that particular phase was just a recognition of how ungrounded and disconnected I had been in my body for so long, because my life had felt so uncomfortable. I was so shy and kind of awkward, socially awkward, and didn't know how to talk to people. I'd been that way my whole childhood and growing up. And so there's just no confidence there. And when I recognized how so much of that was rooted in not feeling comfortable in my body, not being fully integrated or grounded, having my energy, my spirit, my beingness fully here in my body, then that's what shifted a lot. You know, the areas of our body that we have the most argument with is the areas that is holding pain, that is holding unresolved emotional experiences, traumas, arguments, whatever. And we don't want to feel that energy because it's not comfortable. And so we argue with that part of our body. We disassociate from it. We're not fully present. And the healing that happens as you go through those emotions and make peace with your body is that you become a lot more focused and present, grounded, I call it, in your life and with yourself. You find yourself is another way of putting it. And once you have that gradually develops into self-confidence. It's an organic way of letting it just kind of ebb up from me and out. So people will go through different courses and workshops and take tactical action. And that is one way of retraining the body to be in a stance of confidence. And then there's also this other way which to me is like a deeper way of really making peace with you and dealing with emotional stuff. So I've done a lot of that over the years. And that's what has led me towards, or helped me evolve or become, who I am, of knowing what I'm here to offer, of what's important to me, of finding the passion. Like when I go to my soapbox, I just go, and you can feel the passion. It's finding that, of knowing what's important to me, because I've done all of that inner work for 20 years. And I think a lot of people don't understand the importance of it. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to deal with the emotional stuff. And that's frankly one of the things I see with a lot of coaching programs. It's so much of it is head stuff and tactical stuff and doing stuff. And yes, there's talk about dealing with the inner work, the emotional stuff of the mind and the spirit and the body. And personally, I don't know to what extent a lot of coaches really thoroughly understand that process, because they've not gone through it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you have and know what it takes to do that emotional work, it's difficult to help guide other people through those same places. You can only share what you know. And so that's kind of been one of my observations. But it's, I can't I can't stress enough the importance of really being willing to do the inner healing work, of really looking at what you believe, what you've been taught, challenging those things and recognizing, wow, those really aren't true. Challenging the beliefs you've had about yourself, about what you can and can't do, and all of the emotions that accompany those fear-based limiting thoughts.
Well, that's so good. Well, I love the transformation that you've had, because I feel like you are so knowledgeable about many different areas of ways to work with a client. Like not just, I'm a one hit, like straight shooter. I'm going to talk about this one thing. Like we're going to dig into it all. So I want to real quickly, like if you could just give me like a snapshot. If I was a brand new person coming to you saying, Loralee, I don't even know where to start. I just need help. I need help with something. Like, what would that look like if I were coming to you wanting some help, but I didn't know what to do? Walk me through what the process would look like and how we could actually work together.
Okay. So one of the first things I would have you do is this assessment, lifestyle assessment that I have, which actually I'm making available to all of your audience.
Okay, perfect.
And it looks at like 7 or 8 different areas of your life, just a brief questionnaire. And so I'd have you go through that and rate the different areas. And then we could say, okay, so which area screams the loudest at you that we need to work with? Is it something with your health? Is it something with your diet, with how you're relating to your body or not, how you're moving your body or not? Do you have relationships that are more like toxic train wrecks? Maybe we need to start there. And so from that assessment, then we can look at where to, a beginning point. And then from that, then I just start really dialing in on, okay, what do you feel about this particular? Let's say, for example, it's movement and exercise, since we were just talking about the body. Let's say that is the thing that you want to work on. Then I'll start with, okay, so what kind of movement do you do? Would you like to do? What kind makes you bored to tears that you have an aversion to? What kind of flexibility do you have? Have you done much yoga to support that? When was the last time you were out barefoot with your toes sticking in the dirt? Just enjoying connecting to the earth. And then, so those are like tactical or physical things of like action, very measurable action things to do on a lifestyle, to form a new lifestyle habit of incorporating movement and exercise in. So, that's very trackable, that you can put on your spreadsheets and you can mark off the days like, yeah, I worked out today. But what's more important is the underlying psychology of it that drives the actions that you take, or whether or not you bail out on yourself. So then we'd look at, okay, how do you feel about your body? What stories do you tell about how comfortable you are in your skin? And where did you adopt those stories from? Did you have some type of abuse? A lot of women have sexual abuse, and that creates a whole dynamic of a can of worms. What areas of your body feel the most uncomfortable to you? And let's dive into what's going on there. And then there's meditations that I teach you, visualizations of learning how to connect with those parts of your body to sense the energy that the body is holding there, and then learn how to move that energy, which is emotional energy of pain, anger, trauma, sadness, whatever happened that your body's holding, how to move that out of your body so that you can feel comfortable more so with yourself, to make it easier to stick to your goals of getting to the gym or working out or doing yoga or whatever those activities, those lifestyle activities were. So we really go at it from two different angles, the inner as well as the outer work.
That's awesome. And then would you meet with people virtually on Zoom or Skype, or do you do phone calls? How do you normally interact with your clients?
If they're locally, sometimes I'll do it in person, and then otherwise Zoom is good. I like having the face so we can see the person. You can get a lot more information about what's really going on with them than just a phone call. So the Zoom is my preferred way of communicating with people.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing about all that. I actually want to switch gears real fast again, because I have some just rapid fire, like just first thing that comes to your mind. But these are our keeping it real questions. And the first one is, what motivates you on days when everything's just super tough? Like you've spilled your coffee, you're running late, everything is just, you're off completely. Like what keeps you motivated on those days?
Knowing that I have a reason and a purpose for what I'm doing, like a higher purpose of this has to be accomplished in my lifetime. And not only to serve other people, but for me to transform my life experiences. If there's things here in my current life that I want to make adjustments or up level, they're not going to happen if I don't do the work.
Yeah.
I won't fulfill why I'm here on this planet if I don't do the work.
I think that's good motivation. That's a good motivating factor. Okay, my next question is, do you consider yourself a perfectionist?
No.
Not at all.
No.
Okay.
It's always an expanding, unfolding evolution. And I don't think you could reach a plateau of what you, like 5 years ago, of what you think perfection was, and you reach that, and then you find there's more things to, your idea of perfection has changed because you've reached that spot.
I love that. And I love asking this question because it's always different. But I feel that as rookies, like our basis of everything here is the rookie life is you have to be perfect. Like a lot of people get stuck in that rut. They're scared to try something because they think it has to be perfect. So I love what you just said. Do you remember what you just said? What did you say? The evolution of everything? What did you say?
It's always going to change. So what you thought was perfect 5 years ago, you could hit that plateau or that spot now. And from your perspective in Vista now, then what's perfect now is going to be something different. And, if you, a little side caveat, if people get hung up on perfection, then to me, what that is really saying is they don't believe in themselves and they don't have confidence. They're too worried about what other people think and what it's supposed to look like, again, based upon other people's objectives, rather than I'm just going to put it out there and I know it's going to suck the first time. And so I'm going to keep going until I figure it out.
That's good. That's really good. I like that. Okay, my last question I have for you. If you could go back and tell your younger self one piece of advice, what would you say to her?
Oh, goodness. I would say the thing that came to mind is just keep going, keep believing and keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep believing in yourself and just it will work out.
I love it. Well, Loralee, this has just been so much fun. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. But before we let you go, where can everybody find you online? If you have a website or social media where we can follow you.
All righty. So I have a couple of different places to easily find me. Probably one of the easiest is on Facebook. under my name, Loralee Humpherys. You can also find me on my YouTube channel, which is Faces of Freedom. You can put that in there, or you can also put my name, Loralee Humpherys, in there, and my channel will show up. And then I'll give you the link for that. And my website is LoraleeHumpherys.com. So you can find me there. And then I have a gift for all of your audience. If you want to learn more about me and follow more of what I'm doing, then you can download the lifestyle assessment guide that I talked about earlier. I'll give you the link for that. So those are 4 different ways to easily find me and follow me and learn more about all that I do.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah. Like Loralee said, don't worry if you didn't get all those or you don't have the spelling. Like, we're going to have all of these in the show notes. So don't worry, we got you taken care of. But Loralee, thank you so much again for coming on the show today.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed talking with you.
Y'all, that was such a great interview. Like I said, I knew that you would really enjoy Loralee's story of her journey and her coach and just everything involved, because it was just such an amazing story, and listening to how life unfolds sometimes just reminds me that you could be really struggling today. Like, you could be just right in the thick of something that only you understands, or, you know, you and your partner or someone else close in your life. And it's only when you look back on it in a few years from now that you'll understand just why it is you were going through whatever it is you were going through in your life. So I really encourage you to reach out to Loralee if you connected with her and her story. So go to crystalprofit.com/episode 61 to find all of Loralee's connections to her website and her Facebook page. And I just really encourage you to reach out to her if she spoke to you today. But that does it for this episode. So if this is your first time tuning in, I encourage you to subscribe to the show and check out some of the other fun things that we have coming up in the next few weeks. I'd love it if you'd leave us a review and tell us which episode's been your favorite so far. What do you enjoy hearing about? Do you want to hear more of these entrepreneur stories, or do you want to hear more about specific podcast questions? I'd love to know what you're thinking. So that does it for today. And remember, keep it up. We all have to start somewhere. Hey, Profit Podcast listeners. Thanks for sticking around to a little bit after the episode to hear this special message, because I want to hear from you. We are starting a new segment called Fan Mail Shoutouts, and I want to hear from you, and I want to hear your questions. What do you want to know? What questions have you been dying to ask me? So here's how to make this happen. Go to the app where you're listening to this podcast right now. Go there. I'll wait a second. Okay. Now, once you're there, you're going to see a hyperlink at the top of the episode description that says, "Send Crystal a text message." And that's all I want you to do. Send me a text. It could be casual, informal. It could be totally anonymous. Or if you want, you can include your name and the name of your podcast or content wherever you are creating, and I will give you a special shout out in an upcoming episode. So again, go to the show notes for where you're listening to this episode right now, and it will say, "Send Crystal a text message." And I cannot wait to hear from you and give you a shout out in an upcoming segment of Fan Mail Shoutouts.